Syl's husband had a secret vasectomy to stop her from wanting babies. Then he blamed her after I refused to let her babysit my kids. Throwaway account because, well, you'll see. Reddit, I need your judgment. I'm F32 in a huge fight with my family right now. And it all started with a phone call and a seemingly small comment. So, background. My husband, Mike, M34, has a sister, Jennifer, F36. Jennifer is, to put it mildly, the golden child of the family. She's a lawyer, married to a doctor, lives in a huge house, and always looks perfect. Like, seriously, I've never seen her with a hair out of place. She and her husband, David, M38, don't have kids yet, and they've made it very clear they're waiting for the perfect time. It's always felt a little judge, you know? Like they're implying there's a wrong time to have kids, and, well, we had ours maybe a little earlier than they would have. I've always gotten this vibe that she thinks she's a little bit superior. Don't get me wrong, she's never been overtly mean, but there's always been this undercurrent, you know? Like she's subtly putting me and my choices down. Mike and I, on the other hand, have 2 kids, Ethan, M7, and Olivia, F5. They're amazing, energetic, and yes, sometimes they're a little wild. They're kids. They make messes, they argue, they have tantrums. You know, normal kid stuff. I love them to bits, even when they're driving me up the wall. I wouldn't trade them for anything, not even a perfect life. Anyway, last week I was on the phone with my mom, catching up, and Jennifer happened to be there at my parents' house. I could hear her in the background. At one point, Ethan and Olivia were playing in the living room, laughing and being, well, kids. They weren't screaming or anything, just being kids. And I heard Jennifer say to my mom, clear as day, "Ugh, those brats. How does my name handle it? I couldn't deal. They are so loud." My jaw dropped. My stavidak just sank. I didn't say anything to my mom at the time because I was honestly too shocked to even process it. But I was fuming, like internally combusting. Seriously? Brats? My kids are not brats. They're normal, healthy, happy kids. They're not perfect, but they're good kids. And to hear my S-Il, who barely spends any time with them, call them that? It felt like a punch to the gut, like she just dismissed them, dismissed us. Later that evening, I told Mike what I'd heard. He was surprised, and I could tell he was a little annoyed, but he immediately tried to downplay it. He said, "Babe, you know Jennifer. She probably didn't mean it that way. She was just joking. You know how she is." "Joking?" I said, "Mike, she called our children brats. That's not a joke. That's just mean. And honestly, it's not the first time she said something like that, is it? Remember that comment about Ethan's soccer or Olivia's messy art projects?" He sighed. "Look, I get it. You're upset. But Jennifer's just Jennifer. She doesn't always think before she speaks. She's stressed about work, and they're still trying to get pregnant, you know? Cut her some slack. She probably feels like an outsider looking in." I could tell he was trying to walk this tightrope between defending his sister and validating my feelings, but it wasn't working. He was failing, miserably. Cut her some slack? Mike, she insulted our children, and she's been making these little digs for years. I'm starting to think this isn't just Jennifer being Jennifer. I think she genuinely doesn't like my kids, or me. I felt tears welling up, which is so not me. I'm usually the strong one, the unflappable one, but this cut deep. We went back and forth, and it turned into a huge argument. He kept saying I was overreacting, that I was being too sensitive, that I was reading too much into it. I kept saying that it wasn't okay, that it hurt my feelings, that it made me question whether I could trust her around our kids. We're talking raised voices, the whole 9 yards. It felt like we were talking at each other, not to each other, like we were on completely different planets. Fast forward to this weekend. Mike's parents were going out of town for a long weekend, a little anniversary trip. They usually watch the kids for a few hours on Saturdays so we can have a date night. This time, though, they asked if Jennifer and David could watch the kids instead. I immediately said, "No, absolutely not. No way. No way." Mike was completely blindsided. "What? Why not? Jennifer and David love the kids and they'd be fine. They've been dying to spend more time with them." He genuinely seemed confused, which, honestly, made me even angrier. "No, they wouldn't," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "I don't trust Jennifer around them. Not after what she said. Not after years of subtle digs." He stared at me. "You're serious? You're going to hold that one comment against her forever? You're going to punish her and the kids because of one stupid remark?" It wasn't just one comment, Mike. It was a window into how she really feels. And it's not about punishing her. It's about protecting them. I don't want someone who thinks my kids are brats watching them. What if she says something like that to them? What if she's mean to them when we're not around? I can't. My voice cracked. I was starting to feel like I was the crazy one. Like I was losing my mind. He threw his hands up in the air. This is ridiculous, my name. You're being completely unreasonable. They're family. Jennifer's excited to spend time with them. She wants to be a good aunt. Excited to spend time with the brats? I shot back. I know, low blow. But I was angry and hurt. And, honestly, a little scared. Scared of what Jennifer might be capable of. Scared of what she might say or do to my kids if I wasn't there to protect them. We argued for, an hour? It went nowhere. He kept saying I was overreacting. I kept saying I was protecting my kids. We ended up sleeping in separate rooms. It was the first time we'd done that since I can't even remember. It felt awful, like a chasm had opened up between us. A big, gaping, Jennifer-shaped chasm. Then yesterday, my MIL called. Of course, Mike had told her about our fight, or more likely, his version of our fight. She basically told me I was being ridiculous, oversensitive, and unfair to Jennifer. She said Jennifer was just joking. That phrase again. Is that their family motto or something? And that Jennifer and David were excited to spend time with the kids, and I was ruining it for everyone. She even hinted that maybe I was jealous of Jennifer's perfect life, and that's why I was doing this. Like I was sabotaging Jennifer's chance to bond with the kids out of spite. Jealous? Seriously, WTF. I love my life. I love my kids. I love my messy, imperfect, real life. I wouldn't trade it for Jennifer's perfect life for anything. I mean, sure, a bigger house and a live-in chef would be nice, but no, I'm happy, truly. Now, my whole damn in-law family is mad at me. They think I'm being unreasonable and creating drama for no reason. Mike is stuck in the middle, trying to keep the peace, but I can tell he's frustrated with me too. He keeps saying things like, "Can't you just let this go?" And it's not that big of a deal. We need to think about what's best for the family. As if I'm not thinking about what's best for the family. But it is a big deal to me. It's about respect. It's about trust. It's about protecting my kids. It's about not letting someone walk all over me and my family. So, Reddit AITA here? AITA for refusing to let my SEL babysit my kids after she called them brats, even if everyone else thinks it was just a joke? I feel like I'm going crazy, like I'm the only one who sees this for what it is. Help! Am I overreacting? Update 1. Okay, Reddit, things have escalated. I wasn't expecting this to blow up so much, but I guess family drama is relatable. Thanks for all the NTA votes. It really helps to know I'm not completely crazy. Or, completely overreacting. Maybe just a little overreacting, but justifiably so. Right? Right? So, after that huge fight with Mike, and after reading all your comments, seriously, there were so many. You guys are like my own personal army of validation. I decided I needed to have a serious conversation with him. We sat down, and I laid it all out. I told him that this wasn't just about the brats comment. It was about a pattern of behavior, a pattern of subtle digs, judgmental comments, and a general sense of disapproval. A pattern of Jennifer being a total, I reminded him of all the times Jennifer had made snide remarks about my parenting. Like the time she criticized my choice of snacks for the kids. So much sugar. Are you trying to give them cavities, Yomak? Or the time she questioned my decision to let Ethan play soccer. Isn't that a bit rough? He could get hurt. Or the time she insisted Olivia needed to be in ballet classes, even though Olivia hates dancing and loves playing in the dirt and collecting bugs. Little girls should be graceful, not grubby. Little things, maybe, but they added up. They always made me feel like she was judging me, like she thought she knew better than I did how to raise my own children, like she was waiting for me to fuck up. And I told him, it wasn't just me. I reminded him about what my mom had said after that phone call. My mom had actually called me back later that day, worried. She'd heard the whole exchange, and she'd said, "Honey, I don't like the way Jennifer talks about your kids. It doesn't sit right with me. She sounds condescending." My mom, who is usually the most diplomatic person on the planet, was concerned. And if Mom is concerned, you know it's bad. You know something's up. Mike listened. He actually listened. He didn't interrupt, he didn't make excuses, he just listened. And I could see something shifting in his eyes. He was finally starting to get it. He was finally starting to see Jennifer's behavior through my eyes, not through the rose-colored glasses he usually wears when it comes to his family. He was starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, his perfect sister wasn't so perfect after all. He looked like shit. He admitted that he'd been downplaying Jennifer's behavior for years, trying to avoid conflict. He said he'd always thought of her as just being opinionated or a little insensitive, but that he realized now it was more than that. It was deliberate, and it was hurtful, and it was wrong. He apologized for not having my back, for not taking my feelings seriously. He said he understood why I was so upset and why I didn't trust Jennifer. He said he was sorry, and he meant it. I could see it in his eyes. I could feel it. Then he did something I didn't expect. He picked up his phone and called Jennifer, right there in front of me. Ballsy, I'll give him that. He put her on speakerphone. With her knowledge, I'm not a monster, and I wanted to hear everything. He told her that he'd heard about the brats comment, and he was not okay with it. He told her that it was disrespectful to me, to our kids, and to our family. He told her that she needed to apologize to me sincerely, and that until she did, she wouldn't be seeing our kids, period. He was calm but firm, like CEO mode firm. It was kind of hot. NGL. Jennifer's reaction? Oh boy, she lost it. She started screaming at him, accusing him of choosing me over his family. She said I was manipulating him and turning him against her. She said I was jealous of her perfect life. That phrase again. What is it with her and this perfect life obsession? Does she think she's living in a Instagram filter? She went on and on, ranting and raving like a spoiled brat, ironically. It was like listening to a toddler throwing a tantrum, a very articulate, very angry toddler. And then, in the middle of her tirade, she let something slip, something that made my blood run cold, something that confirmed everything I'd been suspecting, something that made it clear this wasn't just about a joke or a misunderstanding. This was malicious. She said, "I've been telling everyone how my name is a terrible mother, and now you're finally believing me. After all these years of putting up with her and her brats, I always knew she was a bad influence on you, the kids, everyone. It's about time you opened your eyes." Mike was floored. I was floored. We just stared at each other in disbelief. Like, did she really just say that? Out loud, on speakerphone? To her brother? The brother she supposedly loved? "What did you say?" Mike asked, his voice dangerously low. Like, scary low? I've never heard him sound like that before. Like he was about to unleash the fury of 1,000 suns. Jennifer tried to backtrack. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just stressed. And you're ganging up on me. It's not fair. She was practically sobbing now, her voice cracking. But it was too late. The damage was done. She'd admitted it. She'd been actively sabotaging my reputation within the family, spreading lies about me, trying to make me look bad. She'd been trying to turn my own husband against me. She'd been evil. Pure, unadulterated evil. Mike hung up on her. He didn't even say goodbye. He just ended the call. He then called his parents. He told them everything. He told them about the brats comment, about Jennifer's rant, about her admission. He told them that he was disgusted by her behavior and that he wouldn't tolerate it anymore. He told them that he was standing by me and that if they couldn't respect that, then he didn't know what to say. His parents were shocked. They said they'd had no idea Jennifer was doing this. Honestly, I'm a little skeptical. I mean, come on. How could they not know? But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, for now. Maybe they were just in denial. Or maybe Jennifer is just that good at manipulating people. Or maybe they're just oblivious. They said they were disappointed in Jennifer and that they would talk to her. So that's where we are. The family is in full-blown crisis mode, and honestly, I don't even know how I feel. Relieved, angry, sad, all of the above, plus a healthy dose of, I told you so. But I'm trying not to gloat too much. I'm trying to be the bigger person, even though a part of me wants to scream, "Ha!" in Jennifer's face. Update 2. This is getting insane, Reddit. I don't even know where to start. I feel like I'm living in a soap opera, or maybe a badly written reality TV show, or maybe a really f***ed up family drama. So after the phone call with Jennifer and after Mike talked to his parents, we decided to still go to the planned family get-together this weekend. It was at my in-laws' house, and it was supposed to be a casual barbecue. We figured it would be a good opportunity to see his parents in person, talk things through, and hopefully start to repair some of the damage. Or, at least figure out if the damage was even repairable. We were wrong. So wrong. We should have just stayed home and ordered pizza, and maybe burned some sage, and possibly consulted an exorcist. We arrived, and the atmosphere was tense. Like, you could cut it with a knife, or a very awkward silence. Or maybe a chainsaw wielded by a very angry, very passive-aggressive Syl. Jennifer and David were already there, sitting on the patio, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Like, aggressively avoiding eye contact. It was almost comical. Like they were trying to become invisible through sheer force of will. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were trying to act normal, but you could tell they were stressed. They were overcompensating, being extra cheerful and extra solicitous. It was unsettling, like watching a play where everyone had forgotten their lines, but they were still trying to pretend everything was going according to script. The first hour was excruciatingly awkward. Small talk, forced smiles, strained conversations. No one mentioned the elephant in the room, Jennifer's behavior. It was like we were all pretending everything was fine, even though we all knew it was a complete disaster. A 5-alarm fire fueled by years of resentment and passive aggression and a whole lot of crazy. Then, during dinner, my mother-in-law decided it was time for some family mediation. Her words, not mine. She stood up, cleared her throat, and said, "Okay, everyone, I think we all need to talk about what happened. We're a family, and we need to work through this. We need to forgive and forget. We need to move on. For the sake of the family." She kept emphasizing the word family, like it was some kind of magic spell that would make all the bad feelings disappear. Like waving a magic wand and poof, all the hurt and anger and betrayal would just vanish. Forgive and forget? Seriously? I almost choked on my potato salad. My very bland potato salad. MIL is not known for her culinary skills. Let's just say her talents lie elsewhere, like way elsewhere. I couldn't stay silent. I just couldn't. "Forgive and forget?" I said, my voice shaking a little. "MIL, with all due respect, that's not going to happen. Jennifer called my children brats. She's been actively trying to make me look like a bad mother to the entire family. She's been spreading lies about me. That's not something you just forgive and forget. That's something you, I don't even know, deal with, somehow." I was rambling, I know, but I was just so angry and tired and done. Jennifer, of course, jumped in. "I didn't mean it like that. You're twisting my words. You're making things up. You always do this, my name. You always play the victim." She was practically screeching, her voice high and shrill, and she was glaring at me like I'd personally insulted her entire ancestry, like I'd kicked her puppy and stolen her parking spot and told her her hair looked bad, all at once. "Am I?" I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I think I was running on pure adrenaline at this point, or maybe pure rage, or maybe just the sheer absurdity of the situation. Am I really? I felt this weird calm descend over me, like I knew what I had to do, and that's when I did it. I pulled out my phone. See, after that phone call with Jennifer, after she admitted to bad-mouthing me, I started to get paranoid. I started to worry that she would try to deny everything, that she would try to paint me as the crazy one, the oversensitive one, the one who was making things up. So I started secretly recording some of our conversations, just in case, just to have proof, just to have something to show people to say, "See, I'm not crazy. This is real." I know, it's probably a little shady, maybe even a lot shady, but I felt like I needed to protect myself. I felt like I was fighting a losing battle against someone who was determined to destroy my reputation. And, as it turns out, I was right. Thank God for one-party consent states, am I right? I found the recording of that phone call, The one where Jennifer admitted to spreading lies about me. I pressed play. The room went completely silent. Everyone just stared at my phone, listening to Jennifer's voice, clear as day, saying, "I've been telling everyone how my name is a terrible mother." Jennifer's face turned white, then red, then white again. It was like watching a chameleon try to camouflage itself on a disco ball. She looked like she was about to faint, or explode, or maybe both. David just sat there, staring at his plate, looking utterly defeated, like he wanted to crawl under the table and disappear, like he wished the earth would just open up and swallow him whole. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were speechless. They just looked at Jennifer, their expressions a mixture of shock, disappointment, and, I think, maybe even a little bit of fear, like they were finally seeing their daughter for who she really was, and they didn't like what they saw, like they'd been living with a stranger all these years. "Jennifer," my FIL finally said, his voice low and trembling. He sounded heartbroken, like his whole world had just shattered. "Is this true?" Jennifer didn't answer. She just started to cry, huge, heaving sobs, like a child who'd been caught stealing cookies from the cookie jar. But these weren't tears of remorse, I could tell. These were tears of rage and humiliation, and I think maybe a little bit of fear. Then she stood up, knocking over her chair in the process, and ran out of the house. David followed her, looking like he wanted to crawl into a hole and die. He didn't even look at us. He just shuffled after her, like a defeated puppy, like he knew the game was up. The rest of the evening was a blur. My mother-in-law and father-in-law apologized to me profusely. They said they were ashamed of Jennifer's behavior and that they would talk to her. They said they understood why I didn't trust her, and that they would support whatever decision Mike and I made about future contact. They looked lost, like they didn't know what to do, like their whole carefully constructed world had just crumbled around them. Mike and I left shortly after. We drove home in silence, both of us still processing what had just happened. It felt like a victory, but a hollow one. A victory stained with sadness and betrayal, and a whole lot of what the just happened. So now, the family is completely and utterly divided. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if Jennifer will ever apologize. I don't know if we'll ever be able to repair our relationship with her. I don't even know if I want to. I don't know if I can ever forgive her. But I do know this. I will always protect my kids, and I will never let anyone disrespect me or my family again. And maybe I'll start carrying my phone around more often, just in case. You never know when you'll need proof. You never know when you'll need to expose the truth. I'm exhausted, Reddit, emotionally drained, but I also feel vindicated, like I finally stood up for myself and for my kids, and that feels good. It feels right. It feels like justice. NTA, obviously. But man, what a mess. This is going to take years to sort out. If it ever gets sorted out, I foresee a lot of awkward family gatherings in our future, or, maybe no family gatherings, which might actually be a blessing in disguise. A very, very small blessing in a very, very large pile of shit. I'll update again if there are any major developments. For now, I think I need some wine, and maybe a therapist, and possibly a new family. Just kidding. Mostly. Maybe just a very, very long vacation. Somewhere far, far away from Jennifer and her perfect life. Update 3. Well, Reddit. It's been a few weeks since the great barbecue blowout, and things have been quiet. Too quiet. It's like the calm before the storm, The kind of quiet that makes you want to check over your shoulder every 5 seconds, just in case. After Jennifer stormed out and David slunk after her like a kicked puppy, Mike and I basically went low contact with his entire family. We didn't block anyone, except Jennifer, blocked her on everything, but we weren't initiating contact either. We needed a break. A long break. My mother-in-law and father-in-law called a couple of times, mostly to apologize again and to say they were working on Jennifer. I appreciated the sentiment, but honestly, I wasn't holding my breath. I've seen Jennifer in action. She's a master manipulator, and she's very good at playing the victim. Mike was struggling. He was caught between his loyalty to his family and his love for me and the kids. He was angry at Jennifer, but he was also sad. She's his sister, after all. He kept saying things like, "I just don't understand how she could do this." And I feel like I don't even know her anymore. It was heartbreaking to watch. He'd put her on this pedestal for so long, and seeing that image shatter, it was rough. He finally saw her, really saw her, and it wasn't pretty. Then, about a week ago, we got a text from my MIL. It was an invitation to a family meeting. She said she and Phil wanted to talk to us, and to Jennifer and David all together, to clear the air and find a way forward. My first instinct was to say, hell no. Absolutely not. No way, no how. I had zero desire to be in the same room as Jennifer again. I was still angry, still hurt, still reeling from the whole thing. But Mike wanted to go. He said he needed closure. He needed to understand why Jennifer had done what she'd done. He needed to hear it from her, face to face. I reluctantly agreed. For him, because I love him, and because deep down, I knew he was right. We couldn't just avoid his family forever. We needed to address this, somehow. So yesterday we went. We drove to my in-laws' house, my stavidock in knots the entire way. I felt like I was walking into a trap, or a courtroom, or maybe a reality TV show reunion special. When we arrived, Jennifer and David were already there. They were sitting on opposite ends of the couch, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Jennifer wouldn't even make eye contact with me. She just stared at her hands, picking at her nail polish. David looked defeated, like all the fight had gone out of him. My mother-in-law and father-in-law greeted us warmly, but there was a definite tension in the air. It was like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the explosion. We all sat down, and my MIL started talking. She said she'd had a long talk with Jennifer and that Jennifer wanted to apologize. Jennifer looked up, her eyes red and puffy. She looked different, smaller somehow, less perfect. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, my name, and I hurt Mike, and everyone. It wasn't exactly the heartfelt, groveling apology I'd secretly been hoping for. It felt perfunctory, like she was just going through the motions. I don't know why I did it, she continued. I felt so inadequate, like I was failing. You and Mike, you have this family, and I wanted that so badly, and I guess I just lashed out. She still wasn't looking at me. She was talking to the floor. I waited. I wanted to see if she would actually say what she'd done, if she would actually admit to the lies and the manipulation. But she didn't. She just kept talking about how sorry she was, and how stressed she'd been, and how she didn't mean to hurt anyone. It was all about her feelings, her struggles, her pain. There was no real acknowledgement of the pain she'd caused us. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Jennifer, I said, my voice calm but firm, do you understand what you did? Do you understand that you didn't just hurt my feelings? You actively tried to sabotage my marriage. You spread lies about me to my family. You tried to turn my own husband against me. You called my children brats. She flinched. I know, she whispered. I was wrong. I was jealous and angry. And I lost control. Jealous? I said, jealous of what? Of my messy, imperfect life? Of my bratty kids? Of my lack of a perfect career and a perfect house and a perfect everything? I could feel my voice rising, but I couldn't stop it. You have everything, Jennifer. You have a successful career, a loving husband, a beautiful home, and you threw it all away because you were jealous of me? She finally looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. It wasn't about the things, my name, she said, her voice shaking. It was about the connection, the love. You and Mike, you have this bond, this family, and I felt like I was on the outside looking in, like I was missing out. And then she said something that completely shocked me. I've always felt like that, she said. Ever since we were kids, Mike was always the golden child, the one everyone loved, the one who got all the attention, and I was just Jennifer, the difficult one, the one who always messed up, the one who could never quite measure up. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. I finally understood. It wasn't about me, it wasn't about my kids, it was about her. Her own insecurities, her own pain, her own desperate need for approval and validation. It didn't excuse her behavior, not at all. But it explained it. It gave it context. The meeting continued for another hour. We talked, we cried, we argued, but it was different. It was productive. We were finally communicating. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but honestly. Jennifer finally apologized. A real apology. She admitted to everything she'd done, and she took responsibility for it. She said she was going to start therapy to work on her issues. She said she understood if we didn't want to have anything to do with her, but that she hoped someday we could rebuild some kind of relationship. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if I can ever fully trust her again, but I'm willing to try. For Mike, for my kids, and maybe, just maybe, for myself. We left the meeting feeling exhausted, but also hopeful, like a weight had been lifted, like we'd finally cleared the air. It's not over, not by a long shot. There's still a lot of work to do, but it's a start. It's a beginning. Update 4 Reddit, I'm floored. I don't even know how to process this. I need to tell someone, and you guys have been with me through this whole shit show, so here goes. A few days after the family meeting, which by the way still feels like a fever dream, I got a call from David, Jennifer's husband. He asked if he could come over and talk to me and Mike, in person, alone. My immediate reaction was, hell no. I didn't want to see him. I didn't want to hear his excuses. I didn't want to have anything to do with him. But Mike convinced me. He said that David had always been a decent guy, and that maybe he deserved a chance to explain himself. He said that maybe there was more to the story than we knew, so I agreed, reluctantly. David came over that evening. He looked awful, like he hadn't slept in days. He was pale, drawn, and his eyes were red-rimmed. He sat down, took a deep breath, and said, I need to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. And then he dropped a bomb, a nuclear bomb. He told us that he and Jennifer had been having problems for years, that their marriage had been a sham, that they'd been staying together for appearances, for the sake of their families, for the sake of their careers. He said that Jennifer had been obsessed with having kids, that it was all she talked about, all she thought about, but that he didn't want them. He'd never wanted them. And then he said something that made my blood run cold. I had a vasectomy, he said, his voice barely a whisper. 5 years ago, without telling Jennifer. I just stared at him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He'd had a vasectomy, without telling his wife who desperately wanted children. Why? Mike finally asked, his voice hoarse. Why would you do that? David looked down at his hands, his shoulders shaking. I was scared, he said. I was scared of telling her. I was scared of losing her. I thought if I just kept quiet, maybe she'd change her mind. Maybe she'd forget about it. It was monstrous and pathetic. And I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then he said something that made any shred of sympathy I might have felt evaporate. I know it was wrong, he said, but Jennifer, she pushed me to it. She was so obsessed, so demanding. She wouldn't let it go, and I snapped. He was blaming her for his actions. He was trying to make himself the victim. I couldn't take it anymore. Get out, I said, my voice cold and hard. Get out of my house. He looked up at me surprised. But get out, I repeated. I don't want to hear another word. You lied to your wife for years. You let her believe she could have children when you knew she couldn't. And now you're trying to blame her for it. You're disgusting. He stood up slowly, his face pale. He opened his mouth to say something, but I cut him off. Don't, I said. Just go, and don't ever contact us again. He left, and I just stood there, shaking. Mike put his arms around me, and I just broke down. I cried for Jennifer, for the years she'd wasted, for the betrayal she'd suffered. I cried for David, for his cowardice, for his selfishness, for his cruelty. I cried for my kids, for the family they'd lost, for the innocence they'd been robbed of, and I cried for myself, for the anger, for the hurt, for the exhaustion, for the sheer, unadulterated mess of it all. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if Jennifer will ever find out the truth. I don't know if she'll ever forgive David. I don't know if she'll ever forgive me, but I do know this. I'm done. I'm done with the drama. I'm done with the lies. I'm done with the manipulation. I'm done with Jennifer, and I'm done with David, and I'm done with the whole family, except for Mike, and my kids, and my parents. They're good. They're real. I'm going to focus on them, on us, on building a life that's free from toxicity and drama and brats. Okay, maybe my kids are occasionally brats, but they're my brats, and I love them. I'm going to take a break from Reddit, from social media, from everything. I need to decompress and heal and just breathe. Thank you, Reddit, for listening, for supporting me, for validating my feelings, for helping me see that I wasn't crazy. I don't know if I'll ever update again, but if I do, you'll be the first to know. For now, goodbye. That's all for this story. I'll be back with another one. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It motivates me to create more content like this.